Hi, I'm David Dodge. Welcome to Green Energy Futures. How do we create affordable housing that's family-friendly, nice to live in, and prepares us for an uncertain future? The answer may be family-friendly point access blocks, something that's not even allowed in many places.
Hi, my name is Michael Eliason. I'm an architect based in Seattle. Spent a couple of years working in Germany and founded the firm Larch Lab 2 years ago. We're focused on decarbonized buildings, low-car, transit-accessible neighborhoods, and very efficient community-oriented housing.
Eliason has been invited to Edmonton to talk about building sustainable, affordable housing, just as the city is wrestling with a long overdue overhaul of its zoning bylaws.
My main message, I think, based on my conversation with Michael, is really the way that we're living is incredibly unsustainable, that we can build a future with abundant housing, very walkable and accessible neighborhoods, more affordable housing, housing with a higher quality of life, and housing in neighborhoods that are more climate adaptive as well. I think at this point, there are several kind of competing or conflicting things that we need to start addressing. One is the housing crisis. The housing crisis in the U.S. is starting to get really severe. My understanding is in parts of Canada, it's also getting quite severe. People my age or even younger have very much few opportunities to buy housing, to attain housing. Rental housing costs are exploding kind of everywhere. So there's the housing issue is one thing that we need to start addressing. And then contrasted with that is also the climate crisis, which is in weird ways also exacerbating the housing crisis.
Affordability is key, but so too is building better to deal with severe weather, so-called climate resilience.
I think we're going to need to start pivoting to build buildings that are more adaptive to not just smoke events, but heat events. Deluges from rainfalls are now just, the amount of water falling out of clouds is higher than it's ever been. So I think we really need to start pivoting to addressing both of these things. And we need to do it in a fairly rapid manner. So the point access block it's a single stair building. It's really just, I think, a way of planning buildings, of developing buildings that allows for more flexibility, more variability, more climate adaptation. It induces larger units, so it's more family friendly as well. And then one of the things that I love about this is, I've lived in a building that's a double loaded corridor, kind of the typical form of construction with 40 units on one floor. Most of them are studios. It's really difficult to know anybody on that building, but the point access blocks are much more compact. It's difficult to get 40 people in a building vertically, and maybe you only have like 2 or 4 households per floor. And so it's really easy to get to know your neighbors. There are, I think, a lot of interesting opportunities around community-oriented development. It's kind of the typical form of Baugruppen, which are kind of self-developed urban co-housing in Germany. So I will be talking about this at the event on the 29th.
This often allows for more livable, community-oriented spaces with courtyards and green space. But in Canada, you can only build a point access block or single staircase building if you are 2 stories or less, essentially killing the idea. Instead, we build large multi-stairway buildings with long, dark connecting corridors in giant monolithic buildings. The idea here is to create a higher quality of life in multifamily and address the big elephant in the room.
For me, I think it's the cost of housing one, and accessibility is a huge one, right? So we can't afford to buy a detached house in Seattle. We're effectively priced out. And the suburbs are not any cheaper anymore. The suburbs are actually becoming more expensive than Seattle for a number of reasons.
Perhaps Canadians will embrace higher quality multifamily living, and perhaps it's affordability that'll spur on new forms of multifamily buildings with plenty of bedrooms and quality outdoor spaces. One way of doing this is co-housing, says Eliason.
But for me, and this is a big reason that we focus on Baugruppen, it's kind of the self-developed urban co-housing, is that community aspect is central to it. We're designing the building with the people who are going to be living in it. We're going to be neighbors. It's a kind of a way of getting to know everyone in our building, or at least some of the people who are founding it. As populations age, and I have parents who are aging, so this is something that I'm thinking about as well. How are they going to be able to remain in their housing? So if we build a new multifamily house that is accessible and has a variety of units, and it has, let's say, a guest suite, that guest suite can become a caretaker's facility if an elderly resident or any resident really needs a live-in caretaker for that period of time. there's some flexibility in that too. It could also become a place where if there's a teenager who doesn't want to live in their small house with their family, it can become like a teenager suite. And they're still within the building. They're still within that community.
Michael Eliason is living the vision in Seattle with his young family. They just invested in an electric cargo bike, which enables them to get groceries and ferry the kids around economically without a car, which also saves them a lot of money. He believes we can build energy-efficient, denser, more affordable cities and offer a higher quality of life, as they are doing already in many other countries. Michael Eliason will be speaking about better buildings and communities this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the TELUS International Centre at the University of Alberta. Tickets are available at michaeljans.ca. Learn more at GreenEnergyFutures.ca. For Green Energy Futures, I'm David Dodge.